Hey, I want to tell you about an amazing experience I had with a dog, a cute little dog. I don't know what type of breed it is. I don't know. It looks like a poodle, but it's a mix because the hair is not curly, it's straight, but it's this cool, beautiful brown and white dog with black spots at the bottom of its paw, and it was the most beautiful experience. So I made the decision. I wasn't feeling well all weekend, and I made the decision the last day. I had this pull. You need to go to the park. I was like, I don't want to go to the park today. But anyway, I listened. I went to the park and I walked and I walked and I walked because I was like, I had this vision in my head of this big old tree, and I was like, I need to find this big tree. I'm just gonna spread out everything, lie down under it, maybe read a book, maybe take some notes, whatever. I just want to chill. Yeah. And I walked and I walked and I walked, and then when I look way over, there were these two big trees. I'll probably share the pictures, the nicest thing. And when I looked at the two big trees, it was like a portal. It's weird, right? But anyway, it felt like a portal to me. So I went all the way across the field, all the way up the hill, and that's where I went. There were many people. The park was full, right? But anyway, I want to share an experience I had with a dog, okay? Because it's just amazing. Now that I think about it, I have to share it. So I have to tell you all the dozens and dozens of stories I have of how much supported you are from the spiritual realm, how supported you are from the angelic realm, how much you go through absolutely nothing alone. And when you get the little nudges and the little taps on the backs from your angelic team or from your guides, your guardians, whoever you want to think that you have, from the God source, if you want to call it that, yeah? Sometimes the life is so busy. Sometimes so much is going on. You've got $300 in your account, and you got a bill coming up tomorrow for $3,000, and it's hard for you to think straight, to say, seriously, I have not got any angelic team around me now. There's nobody. There's no help. I'm alone in this, and I know the feeling because, listen, that was me. Okay, so I know the feeling. But what's amazing to me is how synchronized everything plays out sometimes. And I'm flabbergasted about the fact that the other side, that the universe, I don't know how to explain it in human words for you to understand, but try to understand me. I find it amazing how the universe uses people, places, animals, things. I remember the first time I had, the visual of, okay, what's God and what's universe and what's this source of non-stop help that we get behind the scenes. And the visual they gave me was this big old movie set. And when I got to peek behind the curtains, like the angel would say, this is what life really is. There's so much that goes on the background that you don't ever see with the physical eyes. You don't perceive it. So you see a disappointment now as, oh my gosh, my life is going to end for the disappointment. However, you only saw the disappointment, but you don't see the 1,000 other things that your spirit teams helped you through for that particular day, that you probably wouldn't have been alive. Things could have just been 1,000 times worse. However, you don't perceive it because you only see things in the physical here, because that's what you're here to experience. Okay, so let's go back to the dog. So this dog, I'm there for hours and hours and I'm good, and this dog just runs up to me. And there were many dogs in the park, okay? Dogs playing. It was wonderful to see there, people playing music, but this dog ran up to me. And I love dogs. So dog ran up to me, and she just came to me, and she just lied down and put her mouth on my leg. I was like, hey, sweetie. By that time, behind me were like so many birds coming out of the tree, picking stuff up. So I was recording the birds behind me. Like, that's so cool. The birds are there. And then this little thing came up. So there's this girl coming up the hill, and she was calling the dog, I assume, but I didn't know because I don't know the dog's name. And she came all the way to her. I said, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry that she did that. She's never done that before. I said, listen, it's okay. And remember, I am already in tune with everything because of all the synchronicities that happened to me. So me and my big mouth, hear me to her. Everything happens for a reason. If this dog is here, right, this dog needs to be here. And you probably need to be here. And she says, I'm so frustrated. I've just had it. She forced me to come out of the house, and I'm just so ready to go home. I said, she's not ready to go home. I said, why don't you sit down? enjoyed the view because it was so nice. And as soon as she said, okay, do you mind? I said, no, I don't mind. I don't mind. Have a sit down. She had a sit down, and by the time the girl was to have a sit down, the coolest breeze just rushed through, and I just, But I still didn't know what was going to happen. So stick a pin with this story. I'm not going to try to make it too long. So she was sitting there, the dog was still there, and she's focusing on the dog. I'm not sure what to do at this point because I don't know this girl, and I don't know if she wants to talk. So she's there focusing on the dog. I said, can't believe you did this. You had me come up this hill and all of that. And she's going on with the dog. And then I looked over and I looked at her and I said, so how's your day going? She says, I don't know you, but it's the worst day ever. I'm just ready to give up. What did she just say? She said the magic words for me because I don't like people to say that. I said, why would you give up? I said, do you know there are 5 things you need in this life to live? And I could tell she doesn't want to hear anything from me. I said, if you're willing to listen, since you're here, I'll tell you the 5 things you need. She said, no, you need more than 5 things. I said, not really. I said, you need 5 things really to be able to sustain life. I'm not talking about an eternal, a rich, a wealthy. I mean to sustain life, happy life. And I said, the first one I can see you doing now. She said, what's that? I said, you have air. You're breathing. And when she did this, it came out so fast. I said, but you're hardly breathing. You're hyperventilating. I said, why don't you try really breathing with appreciation and with gratitude? Do this. And I said, feel it as if it's caressing your body. And she did it. She tried to do it a couple times, but she was so agitated. She kept doing. And so many of us go through life like this. And when she did that, she said, okay, what's the others? I said, okay, so you have air. I said, the second thing you need is water. And at the side of her bag, she had water. I said, if you feel thirsty or anything, you need water to live. That's the second one. I said, the third thing you need is food. You need to have something to eat. I'm not talking about, grand steak or anything, but you need food. That's the third one. I said the fourth thing you really need is sleep. You need to have sleep. You need to get to regenerate your body and give your spirit time to just rejuvenate and reset itself. And then she started to say, yeah, but I mean, everybody does that. I said, yes, but everybody down here doesn't realize that's all you really need. And I said, the last thing that you really need is some kind of companionship. And I looked down at the dog. I said, this is your best friend, who's now my best friend, and I want to take her home. And she laughed like crazy. She said, I don't understand. I'm in the house and I don't want to come out. She said, okay, I'm going through a breakup and I've just had it. I am done. I am in my apartment. I don't know how I'm going to pay. And she's going on and on and on. I don't want to tell her whole story. But here's what happened. And here's what I realized Spirit did. The universe used her dog to get her to the park, to probably unwind, to see life in its fullest abundance. Because where I was sitting there, it was right after I did a video. I did a video showing the whole park. I'll share it another time. Because when I sat there and the wind was hitting me, I was watching the birds coming out of the tree and eating from the grass, and they were all provided for. This thing came over me like, oh my God, we are so wealthy. Our wealth is in this soil, the soil that we walk on, this air that we breathe. And I was just sitting there. I was lying down and then I sat up and I was breathing it in. I was feeling, listen to me, $100 million couldn't feel that way to me. That's how I felt. And the universe synchronized it, choreographed this scene in her life so much that her dog brought her to where I was, who wasn't planning to say anything to anybody at that park. And I had my book there. I had more than one book there, but I had one particular book there. And I said to her, I said, can I read you something? And I flipped to one of the chapters in my book and I read it to her very briefly. And when I read it to her, this girl started to cry. And I said, do you want a hug? She said, I don't even know. I don't know you. I said, do you understand that there are boots on the ground? That there's somebody on the other side who wants you to know today not to give up? Do you know that the reason why you're sitting right here right now is not by accident at all? The reason why you came out of your house was not accidental. The reason why your dog came here where I am, it has nothing to do with me. There's nothing special about me. However, this was probably the easiest way for you to reciprocate and take the message that you're supposed to get today. And let me tell you what it is. You're not giving up, because you have the 5 essential things that you need to survive. And the reason why you're still here, because there's a grand plan for you. So do you know that there's some people in your life only for a moment? You see these leaves that are falling off this tree. Do you think the leaf is crying for the leaves that are down there? Those leaves that are down there are serving another purpose. They're insects and all of that living under them. They're serving another purpose. But the leaves, you notice, there are new leaves coming up on that tree. And she looked up and she said, I don't understand what you're saying. I said, stop for a minute and breathe. I said, it means that your life, no matter what falls off you, when you hold on to something that you say is for yourself, it's not there forever. It means that you are now going to be preparing for your next best relationship. And that relationship that you had could not take you to where you're supposed to go. And she started bawling again. I was like, me get myself in a trouble now. Look how me met this woman a ball. What me I go do? I didn't know what to do at this point. I said, listen, I'm going to hug you, whether you like it or not. I said, listen to me. You're going to be okay. I don't know what you have planned, but you have plans that the universe, because I don't know if you're religious or spiritual, and I don't know the right words to say to people these days, because if you're not religious and I say God, you might get upset. She said, you can say God. I said, okay. God wanted you to know today in a big way that that breakup was not a breakdown. It's taking you to a breakthrough. Thank God I just wrote this book, because the words were flowing in my mind that I wrote in that book. And she was still bawling there. I was like, there is life out here for you. And I want you to just open your eyes and look. Do you see people living life? And listen, this place is full. There are people playing games. They're playing frisbees. There were dogs running all over. Listen, it was crazy. She looked and she started bawling again. And I was like, it's okay for you to cry, because every tear that is shed is a fear that you had in you to believe that you need somebody to fulfill you. You needed that lesson that you learned from this person to love you more. For tonight, when you go home, I want you to look in the mirror and love you. Don't miss what is gone, because what is gone was just something that took you to this crossroads, and he couldn't go any further with you, because the grand plan that God has for you, he wouldn't have furnished it there. He wouldn't have helped you grow it. You wouldn't have gone there. Don't you want to live your fullest potential? I do. And she's telling me, oh my gosh, this girl has plans. She has so much great plans in her mind, and she's talking about these things, and she's talking about the things that she wanted to do a year ago, but he didn't want to move. And I said, but you loved him still, and you loved him as long as you could love him. But now the universe says it's time for you to take your leap. And his life, chances are, will be much better too, but just not together. Oh my gosh, this is going 12 minutes. Anyway, this encounter happened only because of her dog, but not only because of her dog, because it was choreographed. It can't be any better than a scene in a movie that a director wrote. Well, director is God, obviously. God is the director of all of this. Who directed this to get a dog to nag the owner, who was sitting in the house moping and saying she's giving up on life, to get her actually out to come to the park, which I don't know where she lives, and to get me at the same time, who was here moping too, not moping sad, but lazy, to get me to go to the park, to go exactly there between them two big trees, to have this dog come up, this beautiful dog, and just orchestrated. Nothing could have been planned anyway. Perfect. Listen, I don't, oh gosh. It was awkward and it was good. But I know she's good now, because I believe she received the message that she was supposed to receive. And it wasn't from me. It was just orchestrated. It was just perfect. I say this to tell anyone out there who's going through a low period, who's going through a dark period, who feels as if, why you want to give up on life? Do not give up, because you have the 5 main things that you need to survive a happy life. A happy life doesn't mean $1 billion in your account. A happy life just means that you are fulfilling your soul's purpose. That's by doing something that makes you light up, that makes you smile, that makes you feel fulfilled. And selfishness isn't a bad thing. Because people say, oh, you're selfish. You know what I believe in? I believe in being self-full. So full of yourself that you come first. Your happiness, your joy, your peace. And no matter what it is out there, if it's a belief system, if it's a person, if it's a job, if it's a habit, if it makes you feel depleted at the end of the day, these are nudges you're getting to say, hey, this is not working out for you. You need to change. So what are you going to do? Are you going to wait for the universe to kick your behind? Because when they do kick hard, you know, the universe, God, creator, the spiritual team, whatever you want to call it. they give you nudges and signs and say, I think it's time for you to stop settling now. I think it's time for you to start sending applications out. I think it's time for you to put this idea to work. I think it's time for you to take sacred action because this thing is really good for you. It makes you happy. I think it's time for you to step out of this situation, this relationship, this friendship, because it's sucking the life out of you and us too, okay? And when you don't listen, they kick hard, okay? So to the person who feels as if life just had it with them, no, it didn't. If life has it with you, you wouldn't have breath this minute. So the point that you have breath means that you're being prepared for something masterful, honey. Just breathe it in. Just accept that you are bountifully provided for. And you are as wealthy as the birds who were in that park yesterday. You are as wealthy as the grass that were growing under my feet. You are as wealthy as the wind that supports you every single day. And even if you can't see it, trust me when I tell you, behind the scenes of God's grand production, there's so much going on. The job that you didn't get, you don't even understand. That job would have depleted you. You would have got no support. Don't feel sad about it. Just say, okay, thank you, God. I am moving on to the next one. The relationship that didn't work, it just was not for you. It seemed perfect, but God realized that you would have had to sacrifice something. The keys that you couldn't find, okay, don't curse the day, don't curse the key. That saved you from an accident, honey. At exactly such and such time. Everything is synchronized. Everything is choreographed. And I'm not telling you this because I'm a storyteller. I'm telling you this because I experienced this. I've been told this. I now know this. And I own it. Okay? So until the next video, this went 16 minutes too long. I hope you understand. And I hope you understand that you are loved. The universe loves you. You are supported. And that's my truth. And your truth too. See you in the next video.